The Lost Sea of Miracles was a place whispered about in hushed tones among even the boldest pirates, a vast expanse of water where the sky and ocean blurred into one, where islands floated like clouds and sea monsters lurked beneath the waves. Legends spoke of treasures hidden in its depths, of lost civilizations swallowed by the tides, and of creatures so massive they could crush a ship between their tentacles. It was here, beneath a sky streaked with unnatural hues of violet and gold, that the Straw Hat Pirates found themselves sailing, their ship, the Thousand Sunny, cutting through the eerie mist that clung to the water's surface. Luffy stood at the figurehead, his straw hat tilted back as he grinned at the horizon. His crew knew that look, it was the same one he wore before diving headfirst into trouble. "This place is awesome," he declared, stretching his arms wide as if to embrace the strange sea. Nami, clutching her log pose with white knuckles, shot him a glare. "Awesome? This is the most dangerous stretch of ocean in the New World. The currents shift without warning, and half the maps say this place doesn't even exist." Zoro leaned against the railing, his three swords secure at his hip. "If it's dangerous, that just means there's something worth fighting here." Sanji exhaled a stream of smoke, glancing at the swirling mist. "Or something worth eating. A sea this weird has gotta have rare ingredients." Usopp, however, was already trembling, his hands gripping the mast. "Or something that'll eat us. Did you hear that? That weird groaning sound? That's definitely a sea monster." As if summoned by his fear, the water beneath the Sunny erupted. A colossal tentacle, thick as a ship's mast and lined with suckers the size of barrels, burst from the depths, slamming down onto the deck with a force that sent splinters flying. The crew scattered, Luffy leaping back with a laugh. "Now that's what I'm talking about." The creature revealed itself in stages, first the tentacles, then a massive, bulbous body covered in iridescent scales, and finally a beak like maw lined with rows of jagged teeth. Its eyes, glowing in eerie yellow, fixed on the Sunny with predatory hunger. The Sky Kraken, a beast said to drag ships into the abyss, had found its next meal. Luffy didn't hesitate. His arm snapped back, stretching to impossible lengths as he funneled his haki into his fist. "Gamu Gamu no. Pistol." The punch landed with a thunderous crack, the impact rippling through the Kraken's flesh. The monster recoiled, but the attack only seemed to enrage it. A flurry of tentacles lashed out, forcing Zoro into action. In one fluid motion, he drew his blades, the air humming as he slashed through the air. Santoru. Tatsumaki. A whirlwind of cutting force sliced through two tentacles, sending them writhing into the sea. Sanji kicked off the railing, his leg igniting with flames. Hell memories. His heel connected with the beast's underside, the heat searing its flesh. Yet the Kraken was far from finished. One massive limb wrapped around the Sunny's hull, the wood groaning under the pressure. Usopp, despite his terror, notched an explosive star into his slingshot. Kairoseki Star. Firebird. The projectile struck the tentacle, the blast forcing it to loosen its grip. But the Kraken was adapting. Its wounds closed unnaturally fast, its scales shifting color to blend with the mist. Robin, observing from the deck, narrowed her eyes. "It's regenerating. And camouflaging. This isn't just an animal, it's something more." Luffy grinned, rolling his shoulders. "Then we'll just hit it harder." His body surged with haki, his muscles coiling like springs. The Kraken lunged, its beak snapping shut where Luffy had stood a second before, but he was already in the air, his fist pulled back for another strike. Gear second. His speed became a blur, his fists raining down in a barrage that sent shockwaves through the monster's body. Yet even as the battle raged, something stirred in the depths below. A shadow, darker and vaster than the Kraken, shifted beneath the waves. The water trembled, the mist thickening as if the sea itself was holding its breath. The real danger hadn't revealed itself yet. And the Straw Hats, for all their strength, had no idea what was coming. The storm raged with unrelenting fury as the Thousand Sunny pitched violently in the churning waves of the Lost Sea of Miracles. Luffy clung to the mast, his straw hat whipping against his back, eyes locked on the monstrous silhouette rising from the depths, the Sky Kraken, its colossal tentacles writhing like living storms, crackling with eerie blue lightning. "Oi, Luffy! We can't keep dodging forever," Zoro shouted over the wind, his swords already drawn. The Kraken's latest attack had torn through the sails, leaving the ship at the mercy of the tempest. "I know." Luffy gritted his teeth, stretching his arms to grip the rigging. "But we gotta get close enough to hit it." Sanji kicked off the railing, soaring toward one of the descending tentacles. "Then let's make an opening." His leg ignited, a spiraling inferno as he struck, Diable Jambe, flambéed shot. The Kraken recoiled, its flesh searing, but the beast wasn't deterred. Another tentacle lashed out, aiming straight for the ship's hull. Frankie! Reinforce the side. Nami screamed, clutching her Klimatact as lightning flickered in the storm clouds above. Super, on it. Frankie slammed his fists together, activating the ship's emergency plating just as the Kraken's strike landed with a deafening crunch. The Sunny groaned but held, for now. Amid the chaos, Robin's voice cut through the wind, calm but urgent. Something's wrong. The Kraken isn't attacking randomly, it's hurting us. Usopp paled. Hurting us? Toward what? As if in answer, the sea ahead split. A massive whirlpool yawned open, its dark maw swallowing the surrounding waves. And there, perched on a jagged outcrop at the whirlpool's edge, stood a shadowy figure in a tattered cloak, their face obscured but their presence unmistakably sinister. Ah, Straw Hats, the stranger called, voice dripping with amusement. The Kraken is just the appetizer. The real feast is below. Luffy's fists clenched. Who the hell are you? The figure chuckled, raising a hand, and the Kraken obeyed, its movement suddenly precise, coordinated. Call me the Shepherd. And you're right where I want you. Betrayal coiled in the air. Someone had lured them here. Someone who controlled the beast. Zoro's eyes narrowed. So this thing's got a master. That just means we cut them down first. Easier said than done, Nami snapped, her Klimatact humming as she gathered storm energy. We're being pushed into that whirlpool. Sanji exhaled smoke, his gaze locked on the Shepherd. Then we fight our way out. Luffy grinned, the thrill of the challenge burning in his chest. Yeah. Let's show them what happens when you mess with us. The Kraken struck again, this time, all 8 tentacles at once, a crushing net of electrified muscle. But the Straw Hats were ready. Gear third. Luffy's arm ballooned, veins bulging as he swung, Gamu Gamu no elephant gun. The impact sent shockwaves through the Kraken's body, but the beast barely flinched. TCH. Tough bastard, Zoro muttered. He crossed his blades, aura flaring. Santoru Ugi, Ichidai Sanzen Daisen Seikai. A whirlwind of slashes carved into the nearest tentacle, black blood spraying. The Shepherd laughed. You'll have to do better than that. And then the sea exploded. From the whirlpool's depths surged a second horror, an enormous, skeletal serpent, its hollow eyes burning with ghostly fire. The crew's breath caught. 2 ancient titans, working in tandem. Usopp's knees shook. Oh okay, new plan? Anyone? Robin's hands flickered into existence along the Kraken's body. Mille fleur, gigantesco mano. Her massive arms wrenched at the beast's flesh, but the Kraken twisted free with terrifying strength. Nami's voice was steel. We need to disrupt the Shepherd's control. If we can separate them. Leave that to me, Sanji said, flames dancing at his heel. He launched himself toward the outcrop, but the skeletal serpent moved, intercepting him mid-air with a whip-like strike. Sanji barely twisted away, landing hard on the deck. Damn it, he spat. Luffy's mind raced. They were outnumbered, outmaneuvered. But they'd faced worse. Everyone. Focus on the Kraken first. Zoro, Sanji, keep the snake off us. Nami, Usopp, light it up when I say. Frankie, Robin, buy us time. The crew snapped into motion, trust overriding fear. Frankie's radical beam seared across the Kraken's face, drawing a screech of pain. Robin's limbs coiled around its eyes, blinding it. Luffy inhaled deeply, his body steaming. Gear fourth, Snakeman. His form compressed, speed skyrocketing as he zigzagged through the air, fists ablur. Jet Culverin. The punches slammed into the Kraken's beak-like mouth, cracks spider webbing across its hide. The Shepherd's smirk faltered. Impossible. Now, Nami. Zeus. Nami's Klimatact crackled, the homie cloud roaring to life. Rego, heavenly fire. A bolt of golden lightning erupted from the sky, spearing the Kraken's skull. The beast convulsed, tentacles spasming. And then Usopp's Firebird star struck its wounded eye, the explosion sending it reeling backward. The Kraken screamed, thrashing, and the Shepherd's control slipped. But victory was short-lived. The skeletal serpent lunged, fangs glinting. Zoro met it mid-strike, blades locking against bone. Not so fast. Sanji was already in the air, flipping over the serpent's spine. Diable jambe, bien qui grill shot. His heel slammed into its skull, the impact reverberating. The Shepherd stepped back, cloak billowing. No matter. The sea will claim you either way. The whirlpool's pull intensified, the Sunny groaning as it was dragged toward the abyss. Luffy's chest heaved, but his grin didn't waver. We're not done yet. The real fight was just beginning. The storm raged over the lost Sea of Miracles, waves crashing against the Thousand Sunny as the monstrous sky kraken loomed above, its tentacles writhing like living storm clouds. Luffy grinned, cracking his knuckles, while Zoro and Sanji braced beside him, their eyes locked on the beast. But before they could strike, a sudden blur of motion cut through the rain, a figure darting across the water's surface, leaving ripples that glowed faintly blue. The newcomer landed lightly on the Sunny's railing, balancing effortlessly despite the ship's violent rocking. A woman, clad in a flowing coat lined with scales, smirked down at them. Her hair, streaked with silver and deep blue, whipped in the wind, and her eyes, sharp as cut glass, flicked between the crew and the Kraken. "You're making a lot of noise," she said, her voice carrying over the storm. "Mind if I join the fun?" Before anyone could answer, she lunged, not at the Kraken, but at Luffy. Her fist flashed forward, coated in swirling water that hardened into jagged ice at the last second. Luffy barely twisted away, the ice grazing his cheek as he retaliated with a swift Gamu Gamu no pistol. She ducked under it, spinning low to sweep his legs, but he flipped midair, landing in a crouch. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded, still grinning but eyes narrowed. "Call me Maris," she said, flipping a dagger from her sleeve, its blade shimmering with trapped seawater. "And that Kraken's got something I need." Sanji cursed, kicking a flaming strike toward her, but she parried with her dagger, the water extinguishing his fire in a hiss of steam. "You're not taking our fight," Sanji snapped. Maris laughed, flipping back as Zoro's swords carved the space where she'd stood. "Oh, it was never yours," she said, then whistled sharply. The Kraken shuddered, one massive eye rolling toward her, and then it moved, not attacking the Sunny, but coiling a tentacle around her, lifting her toward its beak. Luffy's crew froze. "She's controlling it?" Usopp yelped. But no, Maris wasn't being eaten. She stood on the tentacle, patting it like a pet, before leaping high, her dagger plunging into the Kraken's flesh. It roared, thrashing, and she rode the momentum, flipping onto its head. "Sorry, beastie," she murmured, "but I need that compass heart of yours." The Kraken's other tentacles lashed out, not at her, but at the Sunny. Luffy shot forward, stretching his arms to grab two, while Zoro sliced through another. But the force sent the ship tilting dangerously, Nami and Chopper scrambling to keep balance. "We can't fight her and the Kraken," Nami shouted. Maris didn't let up. As the Kraken writhed, she carved symbols into its skin, the seawater responding to her touch, forming glowing chains that dug into its flesh. The creature's movement slowed, its roars turning ragged. "Almost got it," she muttered, then yelped as Sanji's heel slammed into her side, sending her skidding across the Kraken's slick hide. "You're not the only one who can move fast," Sanji growled, igniting his leg for another strike. Maris wiped her mouth, smirking. "Cute." She flicked her dagger, and the water around them moved, forming a whip that snapped at Sanji's ankle, yanking him off balance. He barely twisted free, but she was already lunging again, only for Zoro's blades to intercept, forcing her back. Luffy, meanwhile, had his hands full with the Kraken, now half dazed from Maris's ritual. "Hey, ugly," he shouted, slamming a gear third fist into its beak. The Kraken reeled, but one wild tentacle smacked Luffy midair, sending him crashing into the mast. "Luffy," Chopper cried, rushing to help. Maris didn't pause. She darted past Zoro, weaving through his strikes like water itself, and drove her dagger into the Kraken's skull. The beast screamed, its body convulsing as a pulsing, coral-like orb was torn free from its flesh. Maris grabbed it, clutching the glowing prize to her chest. "Thanks for the distraction," she called, already backing toward the edge. "Oh no you don't," Nami snarled, swinging her Klima-tact. Lightning arced down, but Maris rolled, the bolt searing the deck instead. She flipped over the railing, landing on a wave that surged unnaturally beneath her feet, carrying her away. Luffy pushed himself up, shaking off the hit. After her. But the Kraken, now berserk without its core, swung a final, devastating tentacle, not at them, but at the sea itself. The impact sent a tidal wave crashing toward the Sunny. Jinbei roared, steering hard, but the force was too much. The ship pitched, and for a heart-stopping moment, the crew was airborne before slamming back down, the world spinning. When the spray cleared, Maris was gone, and so was the Kraken, dragged under by its own dying thrashing. The storm began to ease, leaving only the echo of her laughter. Zoro sheathed his swords, scowling. Who the hell was that? Nami clutched her bruised arm, eyes dark. Someone who just made things a lot more complicated. Luffy cracked his neck, staring at the horizon where Mari's had vanished. His grin was still there, but sharper now. Doesn't matter. We'll find her, and that thing she stole. The crew exchanged glances. Whatever Mari's wanted with the Kraken's heart, one thing was certain: their journey into the lost Sea of Miracles had just gotten a lot more dangerous. The air crackled with tension as Luffy's fists clenched, his rubbery arms coiled like springs ready to unleash hell upon the sky Kraken. The beast loomed over the Thousand Sunny, its massive tentacles writhing like storm clouds, each sucker-lined limb capable of crushing the ship to splinters. The lost Sea of Miracles lived up to its name, a swirling abyss of mist and phantom waves, where the laws of nature bent to the whims of the unknown. This thing's got a nasty grip, Zoro growled, his blades already drawn, eyes sharp as he gauged the monster's movements. But it's not getting a free meal today. Luffy launched himself skyward, his body stretching impossibly far as he rocketed toward the Kraken's bulbous head. Gamu Gamu no. He began, but before he could finish, a tentacle lashed out, wrapping around his torso midair and slamming him into the mast with a sickening crunch. The wood splintered, and Luffy gasped, the wind knocked out of him. The Kraken's beak like moss split open in a grotesque smile, revealing rows of jagged teeth dripping with venom. Nami's voice cut through the chaos, shrill with panic. It's not just attacking randomly. It's hurting us, toward the whirlpool. Sure enough, the Sunny was being dragged backward, the sea itself churning into a vortex behind them. Sanji cursed, kicking off the railing to deliver a flaming strike to the tentacle pinning Luffy, but another limb intercepted him midair, slamming him into the deck hard enough to crack the planks. Then came the twist, one that none of them saw coming. From the depths of the mist, a figure emerged, standing atop the Kraken's head like a conqueror. A woman clad in tattered robes, her eyes glowing in eerie blue, her fingers threaded with glowing threads that seemed to puppet the beast's every move. You're persistent, Straw Hats, she called, her voice echoing unnaturally. But this sea is my domain. The Kraken obeys only me. Robin's breath hitched. A devil fruit user. She's controlling it. The revelation hit like a cannonball. This wasn't just a wild beast, it was a weapon, and its master had been watching them struggle from the shadows. The woman, her name was Celine, as they'd later learn, had been waiting for this moment. Waiting for Luffy. Luffy wrenched himself free, his eyes blazing. You're the one making it attack us? His voice was low, dangerous. Celine laughed, the sound like wind through a graveyard. You pirates are all the same. You sail into places you don't belong, thinking you can take whatever you want. But the lost sea doesn't forgive trespassers. And neither do I. She raised her hands, and the Kraken roared, its tentacles surging forward in a coordinated assault. The battle shifted in an instant. No longer was this a fight against a mindless beast, it was a duel of wills, a clash against an enemy who knew their every move before they made it. The Kraken moved with terrifying precision, countering every attack, anticipating every dodge. Zoro's slashes were deflected by a sudden twist of its limbs, Sanji's kicks met with a wall of rubbery flesh. Even Usopp's carefully aimed shots were swatted from the air. Then, desperation set in. Chopper, in his heavy point, staggered under the weight of a crushing blow, blood trickling from his muzzle. We can't keep this up, he shouted. Brook's skeletal fingers tightened around his sword. If we don't stop her, the ship goes down. Luffy's mind raced. They needed a new strategy, fast. His eyes locked onto Celine, the threads of light connecting her to the Kraken. If they severed that link. Robin. He barked. Can you grab her? Robin's arms bloomed from the Kraken's body, aiming to seize Celine, but the woman smirked. Predictable. With a flick of her wrist, the Kraken's skin rippled, dissolving Robin's limbs before they could take hold. A setback. A brutal one. But Luffy wasn't done. With a roar, he stretched his arms behind him, spinning like a top. Gear second. His body steamed, his veins burning with adrenaline as he shot forward, a red blur against the stormy sky. Celine's eyes widened, she hadn't expected this speed. Luffy's fist connected with her gut, sending her flying off the Kraken's head. For a heartbeat, the beast faltered, its movement sluggish. It was the opening they needed. Now, Luffy shouted. Zoro and Sanji moved as one, their attacks converging on the Kraken's exposed core. Three-sword style. Zoro's blades gleamed. Tiger Hunt. Sanji's leg ignited. Diable Jambe. The strikes landed simultaneously, carving deep into the beast's flesh. The Kraken shrieked, its body convulsing, its control slipping. But Celine wasn't finished. From where she'd been knocked back, she raised a trembling hand, her voice a venomous whisper. You think That's enough? The threads flared brighter, sinking deeper into the Kraken's flesh. The wounds began to seal, the beast's eyes glowing with renewed fury. The fight wasn't over. And now, the stakes were higher than ever. The storm raged overhead, lightning splitting the sky as the Thousand Sunny crested another monstrous wave, its timbers groaning under the strain. Luffy clung to the mast, his straw hat lashed tight to his head, eyes locked on the swirling maelstrom ahead where the sky Kraken loomed. Its colossal tentacles, wreathed in crackling electricity, lashed out from the clouds, each strike sending tremors through the sea. "We can't keep dodging forever," Nami shouted over the wind, her hands white-knuckled on the wheel. "We need a plan." Sanji kicked aside a falling chunk of rigging, his cigarette somehow still lit. "That thing's got a taste for ship wood, it's tearing us apart piece by piece." Zoro, swords already drawn, smirked. "Then we give it something else to chew on." He vaulted onto the railing, muscles coiled. "Luffy, you thinking what I'm thinking?" Luffy grinned, stretching his arms. "Yeah. We go higher." With a burst of haki, Luffy launched himself skyward, his rubbery limbs twisting like coiled springs. Zoro followed, his blades glowing as he slashed through the electrified tendrils that whipped toward them. The Kraken shrieked, its beak snapping shut inches from Luffy's head, but he twisted mid-air, slamming a haki-infused fist into its eye. The creature recoiled, but before it could retaliate, a barrage of cannon fire erupted from below. Usopp and Frankie had rigged the Sunny's weapons to fire seastone-coated rounds, the projectiles punching through the Kraken's rubbery hide. Yet the beast wasn't done. The sea beneath them churned violently, and from the depths, a second set of tentacles erupted, this time, covered in jagged ice. "It's adapting," Robin gasped, her hands weaving into a protective barrier of limbs as icy spikes rained down. Chopper, in heavy point, barely yanked Brook out of the way before a frozen tendril speared the deck. "We need to find its weak spot, fast." Nami's eyes darted to her log pose, which spun wildly. "The storm's getting worse, we're running out of time before the sea swallows us whole." Back on the ship, Jinbei took the helm, his voice steady. "We need to draw it into the eye of the storm. The turbulence there might disrupt its control over the elements." Luffy landed hard on the deck, panting. "Then let's piss it off." He turned to Zoro. "Remember that move we practiced?" Zoro's grin was sharp. "Hell yeah." As the Kraken reared back for another strike, Luffy and Zoro moved in sync. Luffy stretched his arms around Zoro's waist and launched him like a living projectile. Zoro crossed his blades, the air humming as he unleashed a triple strike slash infused with armament haki. The attack carved a burning X into the Kraken's flesh, sending it reeling. But the victory was short-lived. The Kraken's wounds began to knit together, its flesh bubbling unnaturally. "It regenerates?" Usopp yelped. Sanji cursed, kicking aside another frozen tentacle. "We need fire, lots of it." Robin's eyes narrowed. "Then we give it fire." She clasped her hands, and 100 arms sprouted along the Kraken's body, each one gripping a makeshift torch Frankie had rigged from the ship's supplies. "Sanji, now." With a spinning kick, Sanji ignited the torches, flames erupting across the Kraken's hide. The creature writhed, its shrieks deafening, but the fire only slowed it, didn't stop it. From the crow's nest, Brook's violin screeched as he played a haunting melody. Its movements, they're syncing with the storm's rhythm. If we disrupt that. Nami's eyes lit up. We can destabilize it. She raised her Klima tact, summoning a localized thundercloud. Luffy, on my mark. The Kraken lunged, its beak gaping, and Nami unleashed a bolt of lightning straight into its maw. The creature convulsed, its electrical aura flickering. Luffy didn't hesitate. He rocketed forward, his fists swelling with the combined force of Gear 3rd and Ryo, and drove it straight into the Kraken's skull. The impact sent a shockwave through the air. The Kraken's body went rigid, then, with a final, ear-splitting screech, it collapsed into the sea, the storm dissipating with it. Panting, the crew gathered on the deck, battered but victorious. Yet as the clouds parted, a new horror loomed. The lost sea of miracles wasn't done with them. The water ahead shimmered unnaturally, and from its depths, glowing eyes began to rise. Usopp gulped. Guys? I think we just woke up its friends." Luffy cracked his knuckles, his grin fierce. "Then let's give them a show." The Sunny surged forward, straight into the heart of the unknown. The storm raged overhead as the Thousand Sunny battled the monstrous waves of the lost sea of miracles, its sails straining against the wind. Luffy stood at the bow, his straw hat pressed firmly against his head, eyes locked onto the colossal sky Kraken looming before them. Its massive tentacles thrashed, sending towering geysers of water crashing onto the deck. The air crackled with tension as the crew braced for the fight of their lives. "Gear forth, Snakeman," Luffy roared, his body inflating with raw power before compressing into a sleek, coiled form. His limbs stretched like whips as he launched himself toward the beast, fists blazing with haki. The Sky Kraken's tentacles lashed out, but Luffy twisted mid-air, dodging with impossible agility. Gamu Gamu no. Python. His arm spiraled like a living serpent, striking the Kraken's beak with a thunderous impact that sent shockwaves through the air. The creature screeched, but before it could counter, Sanji was already in motion. Skywalk. Sanji shot upward, his legs igniting in blue flames. Hell memories, grill shot. His kick carved a searing arc through the mist, slamming into the Kraken's writhing limb. The flesh sizzled, and the monster recoiled, only for Zoro to intercept. Three-sword style, Dragon Twister. Zoro's blade spun in a furious vortex, slicing through the thick hide as he carved upward. The Kraken shrieked, ink spraying across the battlefield. But the beast wasn't done. One of its massive limbs coiled around Zoro, squeezing with crushing force. Blood trickled from his mouth, but his grin never wavered. "TCH. You think this is enough?" With a roar, he unleashed King of Hell, Onigiri, his swords flashing black as they cleaved through the tentacle, freeing him in a burst of haki-infused steel. Nami and Usopp worked in tandem, their attacks precise. "Zeus, Thunderbolt tempo," Nami commanded, and the living storm cloud unleashed a torrent of lightning into the Kraken's eyes, blinding it momentarily. Usopp seized the opening. "Green Star, Impact Wolf." His slingshot fired a massive seed that exploded into a towering, thorned plant, entangling the beast's limbs. Yet the Sky Kraken adapted. With a guttural growl, its body pulsed, and the sea beneath them churned violently. Suddenly, whirlpools erupted around the Sunny, threatening to drag them under. Jinbei's voice boomed over the chaos. "Everyone, brace." He slammed his palms onto the deck. Fish-man karate, ocean current shoulder throw. The water obeyed his command, redirecting the whirlpools away just in time. The Kraken, enraged, reared back, its beak glowing in eerie blue. "It's charging something," Chopper warned, his fur standing on end. Luffy didn't hesitate. "We end this now." He rocketed forward, his fist pulled back, haki swirling like a storm around him. The Kraken unleashed a devastating sonic blast, the shockwave tearing through the air. Luffy gritted his teeth, the force nearly blowing him back, but he pushed through, his will unbreakable. Gamu Gamu no. King Kong gun. His fist collided with the Kraken's beak in a cataclysmic explosion of force. The impact sent a shockwave rippling across the sea, the sheer pressure splitting the clouds above. For a heartbeat, silence. Then, with a final, shuddering groan, the Sky Kraken's massive body went limp, collapsing into the churning waves. The crew gasped for breath, their bodies battered but triumphant. Luffy landed back on the deck, his form shrinking back to normal as he panted heavily. Sanji flicked his cigarette. "Took you long enough." Zoro sheathed his swords. "Next time, leave some for me." Luffy grinned, exhaustion forgotten. "Shishishi. That was fun." But as the storm began to clear, a distant shadow loomed on the horizon, something even greater awaited them in the lost Sea of Miracles. The battle was won, but the adventure was far from over. The storm raged like a living beast, waves crashing against the Thousand Sunny with enough force to splinter lesser ships. Luffy clung to the mast, his straw hat lashed tight to his back as the wind howled around him. Below, the sea churned, black as ink, and from its depths rose the Sky Kraken, a monstrous fusion of legend and nightmare, its tentacles writhing with crackling electricity, its beak snapping with enough force to cleave a warship in two. "Gear fifth," Luffy roared, his body expanding, his skin flushing red as steam billowed off him. The crew had fought to their limits, Zoro's swords dulled from deflecting lightning, Sanji's legs trembling from relentless kicks, Nami's clean attack sparking weakly. But the Kraken was relentless, its massive form blotting out the storm-torn sky. A tentacle lashed out, faster than sound, and Luffy barely twisted aside, the air itself cracking where it passed. The Kraken's beak screeched, a sound that rattled bones, and Luffy's eyes narrowed. He could feel the weight of his crew's trust, the desperation in their shouts. This wasn't just a fight. It was the culmination of everything that endured in the lost Sea of Miracles. Gamu Gamu no. Luffy sucked in a breath, his muscles screaming as he pushed beyond his limits. The Kraken surged forward, its maw gaping, but Luffy didn't flinch. Instead, he grinned, his will unbreakable. Bajrangun. His fist swelled, Colossal, wreathed in hockey so dense it warped the air. The Kraken's eyes widened, something like fear flickered in those ancient depths, but it was too late. Luffy's punch connected, the impact sending shockwaves through the sea, splitting the storm itself apart. The Kraken's body contorted, its electric aura flickering, then exploding in a burst of light as the creature let out a final, deafening shriek. Silence. Then, the sea calmed. The storm dissolved into mist, revealing a sky streaked with dawn's first light. The Kraken's massive form sank, its silhouette fading into the depths, and Luffy collapsed onto the deck, his body smoking, his laughter weak but triumphant. Around him, the crew staggered to their feet, battered but alive. Nami clutched her wounded arm, tears mixing with rain on her face. We did it. Zoro sheathed his last unbroken sword, his breath ragged. Took you long enough, Captain. Sanji exhaled a plume of smoke, his usual sarcasm absent. Damn rubber idiot. But the victory wasn't just survival. As the Thousand Sunny drifted through the now serene waters, something shimmered beneath them, the lost sea's fabled treasure, not gold or jewels, but an ancient key, one that pulsed with the same energy as the Kraken. Robin's eyes widened. This changes everything. Luffy, still sprawled on the deck, grinned up at the sky. Yeah. The next adventure's gonna be even bigger. And as the crew rallied around him, their bonds reforged in battle, the sea itself seemed to whisper of new horizons, of legends yet to be written.